Now, the format of the speaking test is slightly different from the other three tests. And what we are learning today on the IELTS speaking test is exactly the same for both the general test and the academic test. So what is in the IELTS speaking paper? The speaking test is a face-to-face interview between the test taker and the examiner and an examiner. The speaking test is recorded. There are 3 parts to the test, and each part follows a specific pattern of tasks in order to test your speaking ability in different ways. So please note, all the other tests, you'll be putting pen to paper. The listening, the reading, the writing, these 3 tests are paper to pen. But the speaking test alone, you will not be doing any writing. You'll be doing speaking. You'll be talking. And this test, you sit in front of the examiner as though you are in an interview, a job interview. One on I am muting everybody. So with this test, you are not going to write anything. You sit in front of an interviewer, the examiner, and he interviews you. Now, while speaking, the examiner is, well, it is recorded and then played back later for you to be marked. During the marking, this is what they look out for. So certificated IELTS examiners assesses your speaking performance throughout the test. There are 4 assessment criteria or things which the examiner thinks about when deciding what score to give you. They will be looking out for your fluency and coherency, your lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. So this is what they will be marking you on. We're going to take each of them and delve deeper into it. Fluency and coherency. Fluency and coherence assesses how well you can speak at a normal speed without too much hesitations. It also includes putting your sentences and ideas in a logical order and using coercive devices, including linking words. You remember our class on discourse markers, pronouns and conjunctions, etc., appropriately, so that what you say is not difficult to follow. So the fluency and coherence is how well you can speak at normal speed without hesitation. Lexical resource. Lexical resource assesses the range of vocabulary you use and how accurately and appropriately you use vocabulary to express meaning. The first one is how well you speak, fluent. Second one, vocabulary. It also includes the ability to express yourself using alternative vocabulary when you don't know a particular word. The third component of the areas you'll be assessed on is grammatical range and accuracy. Grammatical range and accuracy assesses the range of grammar you use and how accurately and appropriately you use it. Then the last criteria is pronunciation. Pronunciation assesses your ability to speak in a way which can be understood without too much effort. Without too much effort. So, and the test itself, the whole speaking test, maximum 15 minutes top, is done. It has 3 parts. The speaking test has 3 parts. The reading test has 3 parts. The writing test has 2 parts. The speaking test, 3 parts. Part 1. The speaking test, part 1. Part 1, introduction and over. What is involved? In this part, the examiner introduces himself or herself and checks your identity. So that's the beginning of the test. You are ushered in, you sit down, the examiner sits in front of you, but these days you may not have a physical person sitting in front of you, but a TV screen with either a white man or a white woman sitting in London or any other country around the world to interview you. So you are ushered in, you sit down, the TV screen is on, the person introduces himself or herself to you on the screen. It's live. It's live. And then somebody is asked to check your identity, those things. Then the examiner asks you general questions on some similar topics, such as your home, your family, your work, your studies, or your interests. The part 1 will last a maximum 5 minutes, normally 4 to 5 minutes. The whole test is 14 minutes, 11 to 14 minutes. So give or take 15 minutes tops. The first 5 minutes is used for the part 1. And here, this part tests your ability to give opinions and information on everyday topics and common experiences or situations by answering a range of questions. So the speaking test, the part 1, you surely know the question before you go to the test. It is the test that you know your question before you go. So for those who do not know, the part 1 of the speaking test will always be on topics like your home. Describe your home, your family, your work, your studies, your interests. Okay. And it takes about 5 minutes. After that, it comes to part 2. The part 2 is the individual long term. The examiner gives you a task card, which asks you to talk about a particular topic. The card tells you what points you should include in your talk and instructs you to explain one aspect of the topic. You have 1 minute to prepare your talk and the examiner will give you a pencil and a paper to make notes. Let me go over again. Part 2 of the speaking test, individual long term. The examiner gives you a task card. So there will be a card with a topic which you must talk about on that card. The card tells you what points you should include in your talk and instructs you to explain one aspect of the topic. You have 1 minute to prepare your talk, and the examiner will give you a pencil and paper to make notes. I remember we had a class on mind mapping. Mind mapping. You're going to use mind mapping technique in that 1 minute to help structure your thoughts, topics you want to speak about when you start talking. By using the points on the task card and making notes during the preparation time, the 1 minute time, you should be able to think of appropriate things to say and have time to structure your talk so that you keep talking for 2 minutes. The examiner will then ask you to begin talking and will stop you when the time is up. They may then ask you 1 or 2 questions on the same topic. So with the part 2, maximum 3 minutes, you are done. You have 1 minute to prepare your talk on the piece of paper and the pen or pencil you'll be given, the points you want to talk about, 1 minute. Then the examiner now tells you to start talking. When he asks you to start talking, you talk for 2 minutes, maximum. At the end of the 2 minutes, the examiner will ask you to stop talking. Okay. Now, here, I always advise my students. They say speak for 2 minutes. Keep talking until you're asked to stop. Don't be watching your watch. Don't be watching the time and, oh, I have 2 minutes. When it's 2 minutes, no, you stop talking. No, keep talking until you are asked to stop. Then the examiner may ask you 1 or 2 questions. Now, part 3, part 2 lasts 3 to 4 minutes, including the preparation time. This part tests your ability to speak at length on a given topic using appropriate language and organizing your ideas logically. You will need to think about your own experiences to complete the long run. There is always a part of the question where you need to talk about your own experiences on the topic given. So the topic will always be everyday topic so that you can be familiar with it, and then you can share your own experiences. Now, then the last part of the speaking test, part 3, the discussion. In part 3, you and the examiner discusses issues related to the topic in part 2 in a more general and abstract way, and where appropriate, in greater depth. So the topic you were given on the card, call them cue cards. The topic you were given there, the part 3, you're going to discuss that topic with the examiner. He'll ask you a question about it, and then you explain. So part 3 lasts 4 to 5 minutes. This part tests your ability to explain your opinions and to analyze, discuss, and speculate about issues. Okay. So that is about the speaking test. In broad overview, that is the speaking test. Now, I have a video where the British Council discusses the speaking test in broad overview. I'm going to play that video. I need you to pay attention, listen carefully. Okay.
Hi, I'm Neil, and I'm going to be your guide throughout this course. In the last step, you thought about how confident you feel about speaking English, and in particular, how you feel about grammar, vocabulary, fluency, and pronunciation. Those 4 areas are the things the examiner will be considering in the IELTS speaking test. Fluency and coherence, how fluently you speak. Lexical resource, your range of vocabulary. Grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. My students usually tell me that grammar is the one they most want to improve, but everyone's different, and all 4 areas are equally important to doing well in the test, so we'll look at them all during this course. This week, we'll start by looking at fluency and coherence. But first of all, like any task, you can't really do a good job unless you know exactly what you have to do. So let's take a look at the different parts of the IELTS speaking test. The speaking test lasts between 11 and 14 minutes and has 3 parts. Part 1 takes 4 to 5 minutes, and the examiner will mostly ask you about familiar topics, home, family, work, and interests, things like that. In Part 2, you're given a card with a topic, and you have to talk about that topic for up to 2 minutes. You get a minute to prepare what you're going to say, so this part of the test takes 3 to 4 minutes. Finally, in Part 3, the examiner will ask you questions related to the topic in Part 2. These questions will ask you to talk about more abstract ideas than the familiar things you talked about in Part 1. Part 3 lasts 4 to 5 minutes. This week, we'll concentrate on Part 1 of the test, talking about familiar topics. You'll find out exactly what the examiner is looking for, and you'll learn strategies for giving the kind of answers they want to hear. But before all of that, in the next step, we're going to look at ways of getting the most out of this course.
Okay. So
in the last step,
sorry about that. So this is a broad overview of the speaking test. A broad overview of the speaking test. Today, I want us to start by looking at okay, 1 second. There are a couple of videos where the same British councilman talks about the key areas the exam.
In the speaking test, like in any exam.
The same British Council guy speaking about the various components or the areas, you'll be assessed on in the speaking test. The first one is fluency and accuracy. Let's watch.
In the speaking test, like in any exam, it's really important to know what the examiner is listening for and how they decide what mark to give you. To help you with this, in this video and at other videos throughout the course, we're going to look at the assessment criteria that the examiners use for IELTS. Remember, there are 4 assessment criteria for the speaking test: lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, pronunciation, and the one we're going to talk about now, fluency and coherence. For fluency and coherence, the examiner judges how well you can speak without long pauses and the way that you join your ideas and speech together to make it natural and easy to understand. Someone with a really good score speaks fluently with only occasional repetition and self-correction and develops topics coherently and appropriately. Someone whose score is not so good produces simple speech fluently, but more complex communication causes fluency problems. You'll find the full fluency and coherence descriptors on this step. Have a look at them and think about which areas you feel you need to improve most. It might be speaking at length on a topic, perhaps avoiding long pauses or overcorrecting yourself, or something else. Once you've identified what areas you want to work on, the rest of this week will help you practice and improve on them.
Right. Thank you for that. So that is for coherency and fluency. Let's look at another one on lexical resource.
Remember that back in week 1, we saw there are 4 assessment criteria? Well, we've already looked at fluency and coherence, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. The last one, which we'll look at now, is lexical resource. This is firstly about your vocabulary, using the right word at the right time, and not always using the same words time and again, but using a wide range. The description for Band 6 says, has a wide enough vocabulary to discuss topics at length and make meaning clear in spite of inappropriacies. Lexical resource is about managing when you don't have the right word as well. The description for Band 6 says, generally paraphrases successfully. Part 3 of the speaking test is an excellent opportunity to show your range of vocabulary and your ability to paraphrase. On the next step, you'll see 2 students doing Part 3 and think about how well they managed to do that.
Okay. That video is not here. That's not the one going to play. This is it.
Last week, we talked about one of the assessment criteria, fluency and coherence. Now, let's take a look at grammatical range and accuracy. Remember that the examiner is assessing you on all of the criteria for all of the test, but Part 2 gives you a great chance to demonstrate the range of grammatical structures that will help you get a good band score. The description for Band 6 says, uses a mix of simple and complex structures but with limited flexibility, and may make frequent mistakes with complex structures, though these rarely cause comprehension problems. Watch this candidate speaking in Part 2 of a speaking test. How do you think he performs in relation to the Band 6 description?
All right.
Okay.
Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when time is up.
Okay.
You start speaking now, please.
Okay. So I remember in my life the decision that is very hard for me to make is to choose which university will I attend to. So at that time, it's really hard for me because in Vietnam education system, we don't really get a very good career orientation. So if I want to choose which university, I have to think very carefully. And at that time, I wondered between international university or Vietnamese university. Why it is very hard for me because I have a lot of criteria that I have to put into consideration. For example, the quality of the university, the teachers there.
Sorry, network is a bit slow. Oh, I'm sorry. A couple of you are saying you can't hear anything. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm working on it. Thank you. Let me go back a little.
Attend to. So at that time, it's really hard for me because
Can you hear
in
it now?
Vietnam education system, we don't really get a very good career
Can you hear the sound now? Excellent. Okay. All right. So please listen and access the students.
orientation. So if I want to choose which university, I have to think very carefully. And at that time, I wondered between international university or Vietnamese university. Why it is very hard for me because I have a lot of criteria that I have to put into consideration. For example, the quality of the university, the teachers there, the tuition fees, and also the career path that I get in the future when I graduated from the university. So at that time, I decided to go with the international university one, but because even though that they have a very high tuition fee, but I think their education system has a good quality because they was adapted from another country, from Australia. So it would be better if I can get knowledge from another country. And then the teachers' quality, because they have a very hard, very difficult requirement for the teachers. So I think the teacher can get there, they have a good knowledge and they have the methodology to how to teach students effectively and efficiently. And how it's changed my life? Yes, of course, because in that university, I have an environment to practice my English, both in writing, listening, and speaking too, because everything was conducted in English. So I have more opportunity or chances to practice my English and also the knowledge that I have, and also the friends and the activities in the university that I took part in helped me to make myself more active.
Although he makes some grammatical mistakes, for example, he said, "A decision that is very hard for me to make is to choose which university I will attend to." He also uses some complex structures, and so he would score quite well for this criteria. Remember that back in week 1?
Okay. So that is the overview of some of the key criteria for marking or scoring the speaking test. Now, today I want us to start on one of the areas or one of the criteria in the speaking test, and that is on pronunciation. That is on pronunciation. Okay, so pronunciation in the speaking test. Now, pronunciation is all about how well you pronounce English words while speaking. You need to pronounce the words well, clearly, so that it can be understood and easily followed. A few tips to help you improve your pronunciation. 5 tips to practice your pronunciation in the IELTS speaking test. So is it sheep or ship? Is it fun or van? Is it dessert or desert? Is it 60 or 16? While many agree that pronunciation is one of the hardest skills to learn in English, it is key to the speaking test. So that is why we have put together some tips to help you get it right. Pronunciation can be difficult as it relies on multiple factors, including word stress, sentence stress. There are some words you don't pronounce the alphabet in them. For example, knife, the one you use to cut. You don't pronounce the K, but you stress the N. Sentence stress, short vowels, long vowel, and many more factors. Learning accurate and clear English pronunciation requires a lot of practice, but is key to a speaking test. You will see in the public band descriptor that 25% of your speaking test score is based on pronunciation. So if you want to score very high, in the speaking test, you need to work on your pronunciation. Considering this, we will look at 5 things you can do to practice and improve your pronunciation in time for your speaking test. The first tip is take your prep outdoor, take your preparations outdoor. Is your IELTS preparation time spent indoors and online? While it's not a bad thing, the best way to improve your pronunciation is by speaking English a lot. And here we mean by speaking good English, not pidgin, not broken English. Not pidgin, not broken English, not social media chatting English. Take your preparation out into the real world. Try studying grammar by talking about it with friends or family members. Try watching or listening to your daily news in English only. The last time I was advising you that you should be practicing with some of this online radio. BBC is online. You can get, I think, some podcast or CNN online. There is that American radio station. What's the name? They have this popular show, Daybreak Africa. Let me see those who listen to radio. Yes, download TuneIn app, and you get all those online radios and listen. Sky News, BBC, DW News, France 24, the English version, and so on and so forth. Al Jazeera, many radio stations. Listen to them. Or chat to people in shops, on the bus, or any other public space. The idea is the more English you speak, the better your pronunciation becomes. So the more English you speak, the more English you listen to, the better your pronunciation. Tip 2, practice difficult sounds your language does not have. Practice difficult sounds your language does not have. Not everyone knows this, but language aren't consistent in the sound they have. Some might have sounds which don't exist in other languages. For example, when you go to Japan, the alphabet I and R sounds the same. This means that many Japanese people have trouble pronouncing words where these letters are interchangeable, such as lies, rice. You are speaking to a Japanese and is mentioning rice. You think he say lies because in their alphabet, I and R are the same. Or in Arabic, the letter B and P sound similar. So differentiating between pat and bat might be difficult for Arabic speakers. When you come to Ghana, there are some people, the word L and R, and Nesta Boaji, L and R, our problem, our problem. Ghanaians have a problem with the alphabet L and R. Okay. So this is what causes some pronunciation difficulties when it comes to those specific words. But the key here is to find these sounds missing from your own language and practice pronouncing them. So find words with a lot of L and R in them and practice pronouncing them so that you overcome the challenge of L and R in Ghana. Tip 3, have some fun with karaoke. In China, they call it KTV. In Japan, it's karaoke. Now, wherever you are watching music videos and singing along with friends, it's a fun activity. It is also a great way to study English and improve your pronunciation. So next time you are out with friends at karaoke, choose an English song to sing along to. Singing in English helps you to use intonations and stress correctly, adding life and spirit to your speaking, and it will help you improve your grammar, vocabulary, and listening skills. Yes, Mercy Bobite, you are 100% correct. People from Ghana are unable to say H. So instead of honey, they say Annie. They are unable to pronounce H. Tip 4, repeat, repeat, repeat for pronunciation perfection. If you work out at a gym, you will know that repeating the same exercises again and again can make your muscles more coordinated and improve your strength. The same thing can be said of practicing English. The more you speak, the stronger and more coordinated your spoken English will be. You may think this is repetitive and boring, but adding some repetition drills to your study plan can really help you improve your pronunciation. Find a pronunciation app. There are many pronunciation apps today in the Play Store or iStore. Find pronunciation app where you can practice sounds in a fun way and a quiet room to practice in. So you repeat, repeat, repeat as loudly as you want. You can call it your pronunciation workout. The last tip, Learn the physiology of spoken English. Visualization is a great way to learn things. Some of the world's top university students and the world's best Olympic athletes say that it really helped them succeed. What is visualization? Visualization is using your imagination to see yourself completing an action. So for example, before a game, a soccer player will close her eyes and imagine scoring a goal. In their imagination, they see themselves playing well and putting the ball in the net. Hey, Betty, you said you cannot hear me. Can you guys hear me? Am I off? Is it my network again? If you can hear me, type yes in the chat. Thank you all. Betty, it appears you are alone. Can you please check your microphone, Betty? Sometimes it's also the internet connection. So I was talking about visualization. Visualization is using your imagination to see yourself completing an action. So for example, before a football game, a soccer player will close his eyes or her eyes and imagine scoring a goal. In their imagination, they see themselves playing well and putting the ball in the net. So how can this be applied to pronunciation? How can you visualize speaking? Well, you need to use specific muscles to speak a language. Every time you make a sound, you are using specific muscular action. To apply this to speaking, you will need a diagram or an animation that shows which muscles make which sounds. For example, to make S sound, the muscle diagram will show your tongue behind your upper teeth, while air flows out between your teeth. Okay, so we'll be doing a lot of practice with some of these tips. We'll be recommending a number of apps, pronunciation apps you can download from Play Store. I'll put it on the page. A couple of them, any of them, you can start using them to practice your pronunciation. And then we'll also do special class on some pronunciation, word stress, sentence stress, vowels, long vowels, short vowels, and then some rules in pronunciation. When S comes between two vowels, that S is no longer pronounced S, it's pronounced Z. We'll learn some of those rules so that when you are pronouncing those words, you meet them when S is found in between two vowels. It is no longer pronounced S, it's pronounced like a Z, Z. Okay, so we'll be doing those practice, and then we pray, yes, Lassa. We pray we'll be making the progress we need. All right. Does any of you have a question? Let me unmute your microphone. Excuse me. Okay, now your microphones are unmuted. Do you have any question, please? Any question? Esther Rabiatu, do you have any question? Anita Osam, do you have any question?
No, sir.
All right. Abigail Abe, do you have any question? Vivian Entry, your hand is up.
No, sir, I don't.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Vivian.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon,
Yes,
Vivian.
sir. So I wanted to inquire about okay, you said that they will give you the part 1 question before. How long is this question giving you? Same day or a day before, or how many?
No, Vivian, I think you misunderstood what I said. I said the speaking test is the only test which you know the questions before the test. And I have just told you the type of questions that are coming in the speaking test. So let me show you the type of questions I was talking about.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome. So in a few minutes, okay, I think I have. It should be showing on your screen shortly. Okay. So in the part 1, the examiner introduces himself or herself and checks your identity. Then the examiner asks you general questions on some familiar topics, such as your home. So Vivian, I'm telling you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm telling you, in your speaking test, the real test, the examiner is definitely going to ask you about your home, or your family, or your work, or studies, or interests. One of these 5 topics is surely coming in the speaking test.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
This is what I mean. That's why I said we can practice ahead. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Catherine Esiabra. Catherine Esiabra, your hand is up. Ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So please, let's say the examiner asks you a question about studies. He says, what are you studying? And you are working. Please, can you skip that and tell the examiner you are working and talk about work? Or you still have to talk about studies whilst you're not studying?
Okay, so the examiner will not ask you, what are you studying? Right? He will ask you the question on studying in a way that he will put it this way. What topic did you study when you were in the university or when you were in the training college? Or what topic did you study when you were in secondary school? What was your favorite topic you studied when you're secondary school? So before the test, they have your information. They know the school you have been to, the last school you have completed. If you are working, they also know. Okay, it's part of the application forms we submit. So the examiner studies your file and knows that Catherine Siabra completed Cape Coast University and she read linguistics or something. So the question will be around that area. They will never ask you a question that gives you an opportunity to skip. They will always ask you a question for you to speak. Okay, Catherine?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Do you have any other question? All right. If we don't have any other question, thank you very much for coming. I'll see you on Saturday, 3 p.m. Good afternoon and goodbye to you all. I'll post the recording.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.